Hello and welcome. We're glad you've joined us. Hi, I'm Bobby Russell. I'm a Microsoft technical trainer specializing in AI security and compliance here at Microsoft. I'm here to walk you through the MS-4019 course, Transform Your Everyday Business Processes with Agents. In this session, we'll explore how to build and manage an agent. So let's get started with this session. We're now stepping into the hands-on part of the journey, building and managing our own agents. This module walks you through everything from the tools you'll use to the components that make up an agent, and the actual steps to create one in both Copilot Chat and SharePoint. Whether you're customizing an agent for a specific task or refining its behavior to better serve your team, you'll learn how to test, edit, and manage agents with confidence. It's all about turning ideas into intelligent, helpful assistants that work the way you want them to work. When it comes to building agents in Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat or SharePoint, it's not just about clicking a button and hoping for the best. There's a structure behind every agent, a set of components that define how it behaves, what it knows, and how it interacts with users. Understanding these components is key to creating agents that are not only functional, but genuinely helpful. Let's start with the basics. Every agent begins with a name. It might sound simple, but naming your agent clearly helps users understand its purpose right away. You've got a 30-character limit, so make it concise and meaningful. Next is the icon. This is where you can give your agent a bit of personality. You can upload a .png image, just keep it under a meg. It's a small touch, but it helps users visually identify the agent, especially when you're working with multiple ones. Then there's the description. This is more than just a label. It's what helps the large language model understand the agent's role. You've got up to 1,000 characters to explain what the agent does and when it should be used. Keep it simple, precise, and focused on the task at hand. Now we get into the heart of the agent, the instructions. This is where you define how the agent behaves, what tasks it performs, how it responds, and what tone it uses. You can write up to 8,000 characters here. And if you're using the Describe tab in Copilot Studio, the system can even generate these instructions for you based on your input. But whether you write them yourselves or let the system help, this is where you shape the agent's personality and functionality. Knowledge sources are another crucial piece. You can specify up to 20 sources, SharePoint sites, folders, files, or even Microsoft Graph connectors. These sources define what the agent knows and where it pulls information from. The more relevant and well-organized your sources, the smarter your agent becomes. Then we have the capabilities. If you're building an agent in Copilot Chat using Copilot Studio, you can enable advanced features like a code interpreter and an image generator. These aren't available in SharePoint agents, but in Copilot Chat, they add a whole new layer of functionality. The code interpreter lets the agent solve complex tasks using Python, and the image generator creates visuals based on user prompts. Both are powerful tools that expand what your agents can do without requiring you to write any type of code. And finally, there are starter prompts. These are optional, but they're incredibly useful. They act as a conversation starter, helping users know what to ask for or how to begin interacting with the agent. You can add predefined suggestions that guide users toward the agent's strengths. So when you're building an agent, think of it like assembling a toolkit. Each component, the name, the icon, the description, the instructions, the knowledge, the capabilities, and the prompts, they play roles in shaping how the agent performs. And the best part? You don't need to be a developer or do any of this. It's designed for business users with intuitive tools that make the process approachable and effective. Creating an agent in Copilot Chat doesn't have to be a technical process. It can actually feel like a conversation. When you select the Create an Agent option, you're taken into Copilot Studio, where you'll find two tabs, Describe and Configure. For now, we're focusing on the Describe tab, which is designed to make agent creation as intuitive as possible. Instead of filling out a long form of information, you can simply answer questions in plain language. As you respond, the system builds your agent in real time, updating its name, description, and instructions based on what you say. It's a dynamic experience that it feels more like chatting with a smart assistant than setting up a technical tool. You also have the option to choose from predefined templates. These templates come from pre-built settings and instructions, giving you a head start if you're not sure where to begin. And once you've selected a template, you can still customize it to fit any of your needs that you have. One thing to note, the Describe tab isn't available everywhere. It's supported only in selected regions and languages. So if it's not available in your environment, you'll need to use the Configure tab instead. That tab offers a more manual setup, which we'll cover shortly. So back to the Describe tab. You also assign starter prompts. These are helpful suggestions that guide users on how to interact with your agent. And before you publish, you can test your agent right there in the interface. That way, you can refine its behavior and make sure it responds in the way that you expect. So whether you're building an agent from scratch or customizing a template, the Describe tab makes the process approachable, conversational, and efficient. It's a great way to get started, especially if you're new to agent creation. Now that we've seen how the Describe tab simplifies agent creation through a conversational setup, let's shift to the Configure tab, the more hands-on side of Copilot Studio. This tab gives you full control over your agent structure. Instead of answering questions in a guided flow, you manually enter values for each field: the name, the description, the instructions, the knowledge, the sources, and more. It's ideal for users who want precision and flexibility, especially if you're refining an agent that started in the Describe tab. What's great is that the two tabs, Describe and Configure, are fully synchronized. Any changes that you make in one reflect in the other. So if you begin building your agent through the Describe tab and later switch to the Configure tab, you'll see all your previous inputs carried over. That means you can start simple and then fine-tune as needed. One of the key advantages of the Configure tab is the ability to edit and expand your agent's instructions. Copilot Studio makes the conversation input from Describe. It takes that and translate that into a more detailed format. You can then review and adjust that content to better suit your goals. This is especially useful if you want to add specific behaviors, clarify tone, or include edge case type scenarios. The Configure tab also lets you manage your agent's knowledge sources more precisely. You can add or remove SharePoint sites, folders, files, and graph connectors, ensuring your agent has access to the right content. And because permissions are respected, users interacting with the agent will only see information they're authorized to access. If you're building an agent for a team or a department, this level of control is invaluable. You can filter the agent's responses, ensure it only pulls from correct data, and align its behavior with your business processes. It's not just about functionality, it's about trust and reliability. So whether you're starting from scratch or refining an existing agent, the Configure tab gives you the tools to build something truly effective. It's where you take your initial concept and shape it into a polished, purposeful assistant that delivers real value. To bring everything we've discussed into focus, we're going to walk through a demonstration where you'll design an agent tailored for real-world challenges. Whether it's boosting productivity in your department or solving a personal workflow issue, this is your chance to see how Copilot Chat can turn a business need into a smart, responsive assistant. Let's see what's possible when we build with purpose. All right, welcome back. So in our previous demonstrations, we looked at how to use some of the pre-built agents that are available for different topics, such as the analyst agent and the researcher agent. At this point, we're going to walk through the process of creating your own custom Copilot agent. And we'll go through some of the settings and the benefits of doing this. Now, keep in mind, in many cases, you're going to want to create an agent specific for a task or for a function that you're doing. And this demonstration will show you how to do that. So what I want to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to walk through an existing agent that I've created and show you how this process works. So number one, I'll show you a clean agent. We'll start from scratch. And then I'll show you one that I've built that we can use. Now, in order to create a custom agent, what you're going to do is on the left here, you'll see the option to create an agent. Now, as you've heard during our presentation today, that there are two different tabs that we have for creating this agent. We have Describe and we have Configure. They synchronize with each other. So if I make a change in one, it updates in the other. Now, the differences between the two is the Describe tab allows you to use natural language down here at the bottom, and you can tell the system what type of agent you want to build, and the system will ask you questions. And then as you respond, the system will actually populate in the configure section all of these areas here. What I personally like to do is I like to start off with the describe section, and then from here, once I've got everything populated in here, then I'll go in there and modify it. I'll tweak it and add and remove some things. So that's typically how I'll do it. But let's walk through the process and I'm going to demonstrate how this works. So to give you an example, I'm going to put in here, I want to create an agent that queries the nasa.gov website. The agent should answer questions related to space and aliens. Now, in this example here, I'm just using just for fun here. We'll pick on aliens and space in this, but I want this agent to be able to do research on space and aliens and so forth. So I'm going to use NASA and SETI. I think SETIs.org. So we'll use SETI.org websites. So what I'm doing is I'm telling the agent, hey, this is where you're going to go whenever a prompt, a request is made. The agent should not discuss PII, personally identifiable information, at all. So I'm going in here, I'm defining some of the ground rules. Now, just to have a little bit more fun, I'm going to say all responses should be in English, Spanish, and for you Trekkies out there like myself, let's do Klingon. So what I'm doing is, and I'll explain to you why this is important here, but we're going to use English, Spanish, and Klingon as part of this. Do not use any other sources. So I'm giving it a description of exactly what I want. So notice here, there's no programming involved here. I don't have to go in here, I don't need Python or any type of experience like that. So I'm using natural language to tell the system, hey, create an agent for me that queries nasa.gov and SETI.org websites. The agent should answer questions related to space and aliens. The agent should not discuss PII, personally identifiable information, at all. All responses should be in English, Spanish, and Klingon, and do not use any other sources. So I'm defining the ground rules that we're going to be using for this agent. So notice here, it came back and said, great, the agent is now set up to answer your questions. So if I go to my Configure tab, you'll see it automatically started populating some information for me. That's where the Describe and Configure tabs are synchronized. Now, it'll respond in English, Spanish, and Klingon. Now, next, let's choose a name for your agent. So let's call it the alien agent. Let's call it the space agent. So we're going to call it the space agent. And what this is going to do is it's going to manipulate the name of the agent. Right now, it's called new agent. You see new agent right there. So once we save this or once we submit this, it'll change it to space agent. So now we have a name, and you always want to keep, you always want to have a descriptive name for your agent so people know exactly what it is. As a matter of fact, you'll see now over here on the right, it's also called a space agent. Now, if there's any further information that the Copilot Studio needs to continue building your agent, it'll keep asking you. So notice here, the agent will be named space agent. Now let's refine what space agent will do. Could you describe the types of questions or topics the agent will focus on when answering about space and aliens? For example, should it provide scientific facts? Yes. It should only provide facts from the two sites defined, or we'll say listed. So you see that we have this conversation going on between myself and Copilot Studio to further fine-tune this agent. So it's going through the processing steps here now. So now it says the space agent is now configured to answer only factual questions about space and aliens, using information strictly from those websites. It will never discuss PII and will provide responses in English, Spanish, and Klingon. Next, if you'd like to add or update any knowledge sources, then you can do that. Would you like to add any sources? I'm going to say no, I don't want to add any additional sources. Now, if you think about this from a real practical application, if you're using this in your organization, you could use this for your HR department. If you think about it, how many calls does your HR department get related to employee questions? Like, what form do I need to fill out for time off? If I want to move to a different department, what's the process? So typical HR questions, by developing an agent, you can automate some of those responses. So now it's going and says, okay, the setup is complete. Is there anything else that you want? So in this case here, I can continue on with this dialogue, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my configure tab, because everything that I've been doing has been actually written in the configure section here. And what I want to do is I want to go through the sections here to identify and define what you have. So number one, you're going to have an icon. Now, as we mentioned earlier in the video, customize the icon, make it unique for branding purposes, or just to make it easier to identify for yourself or others that are using the agent. So I can go in here and I can edit the icon if I want to. The second thing we have is the name. Now, the name is important because, it's how we identify the agent. So make sure you give the name or the agent something that describes what it is. This is a space agent. And then our description. It's going to answer questions about space and aliens using only the nasa.gov and SETI.org websites. It will never discuss PII, and it will always respond in English, Spanish, and Klingon. And if you notice here, on the right side here, this is where you can test your agent out as you're making your changes. So it's kind of a playground type area. So I can go in there and say, let's ask it a question. How many planets in our solar system? And again, let's go ahead and ask the question here. And this is purely for testing, so you can make sure that your agent is doing what it should be doing. So now notice it's coming back and it's giving me a response. So the agent came back and said there are 8 planets in our solar system officially recognized by NASA. Pluto was once considered the 9th planet. But remember, I said I want it in English, Spanish, and Klingon. So it gave it the response to me in English. Here's the Spanish version of it. And for my Star Trek buddies out there, friends out there, here it is in Klingon. Now, again, this demonstration is being kind of playful, but think about the real world applications for this. Let's say you're an international organization, or you're generating an agent for people to use, and they may speak different languages. I'll give you a perfect example. In my team here at Microsoft, I cover part of the United States, but all of Central and South America. So people on my team speak English, Spanish, and Portuguese. So what I would do is, if I were to create a custom agent to be used within my team, I may say, you know what? Anytime someone uses the agent and makes a request, always respond in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. So that's where this really comes into play. So it went in there and created that. I can see here that it's working properly. So let's ask it a question. Where does Bobby Russell live? So notice here, because of the limitation that I said, which was never discuss PII, which is specifically down here, which we'll get into, it came back and it said, I can't share personally identifiable information like where someone lives. However, I can help you explore other topics. And it gave it to me in English, Spanish, and Klingon again here. So the description just describes the agent itself. And you'll see that here at the top whenever someone uses the agent. Now, the actual rules on how this agent actually functions are in the instructions section, which you see here. These are the actual rules. So in here I said, and if we go back to my describe, when I initially set this up, I said I want to create an agent. It shouldn't discuss PII. It should respond in these languages. It shouldn't use any other sources and so forth. What really happened is in the configure section, it put that information or translated that into actual instructions. So only answer questions related to space and aliens. Use only information from the NASA or SETI websites. Don't use any other sources. Never discuss or reference PII in any context here. So it'll never answer anything related to PII. Provide responses in English, Spanish, and Klingon. Do not speculate or provide opinions. Remember, I said only factual information. So it's not going to provide any speculation. In here it said, okay, respond in a professional and informative tone. If I want it to be happy or comical, I can go in here and change this. Though it's not required, I always tell my students when I'm teaching these classes, put a tone statement in there. How do you want it to come out as? Funny, happy, comical, professional. You know, this is going to be for members of an executive staff. The agent can use that information to generate a proper response and based on the tone we're looking for. You know, if a question can't be answered using the specified sources, politely inform the user that the information is unavailable. Do not reference or use any other websites, databases, or external non-sources. Now, all of these instructions, by the way, these are essentially my agent's rules of engagement, if you will. This was all derived from, if I go back to my describe tab here, just my information here. As I went back and forth with it, notice here I said only use facts from the sites itself. So it took all of that, derived from there, and created my instructions. And I can manipulate these. I can add additional instructions if I need to. Remember from our recording, the video you just saw, you can have up to 8,000 characters. So that's a lot of information that you can have. So if this were, let's say, an HR agent, the HR department would say, okay, in the instructions, respond to anyone requesting information in a happy, positive tone. Do not provide any questions related to PII or salary information or anything else that would be considered sensitive. So these are the type of things that you want to consider. Now, the next section, the location of where the data will be extracted from, the knowledge section. Here, we define where the agent will go to find the information. So if you notice here, it gave me nasa.gov, it gave me SETI.org, because in my description, when I described it, I said, use NASA and SETI's website. So my agent, because one, I've got the websites listed here, and two, because in here I said, do not use any other websites or databases except for what's listed here. My agent will not provide any responses outside of the context of NASA or SETI, which could be useful when you're creating your own custom agents. You may want to do that. So, by the way, we call this grounding. That is the technical term. So if you've been working with agents or AI and you've heard that term grounding, that's exactly what we're doing. We're providing the grounding material. Now, keep in mind, in this case, I specified websites, but there are many other things that I can specify here. Going back to our HR example, if I'm in the HR department and let's say I have a PDF of the company's policies and procedures and standards, basically, you know, the employee handbook. If I'm in HR, I could go in here, find that employee handbook, upload that handbook, and use that to answer all the questions for this agent. So that would be a useful thing. Let's say, and I do this a lot in my classes, let's say you're one of those people in an organization where you deal with spreadsheets all the time. You know, let's say you're in sales or marketing and you get a monthly spreadsheet that shows all of your sales figures based on, you know, total sales, sales by region, sales by account manager, you know, all of this data. You could upload that Excel spreadsheet in here. You can select the upload, and then you could say, okay, once it's uploaded, now you can use that agent to answer questions related to that spreadsheet. And it's using AI technology to help you as part of that process. So that's the neat thing. So besides uploading files, we can also add files from things like OneDrives. We can add files from SharePoint sites if we want to, and so forth. So there's many different options that we have for our grounding, our knowledge section. Now, the next section we have is our capabilities. Now, keep in mind, the capabilities, there are two different ones. Do I want this agent that I'm building, my space agent, do I want this agent to be able to open, or I should say analyze code, create and analyze code? That is your code interpreter. If I enable this, then my agent can analyze code, generate code, and so forth. Do I want this agent to be able to generate images? Again, if I turn this on, the agent will be able to do that. And then the final thing we have are our suggested prompts. We call these what's called starter prompts. These are the prompts that will show up anytime someone uses the agent. And the purpose of these is, if you're sharing this agent with other people, it gives them an idea of the types of questions they can ask the agent. But if you're using this agent for yourself personally, then one of the things you can do, which I like to do, is I'll put the most common prompts that I normally run against data. If it's my own personal agent, I will put that in here. And then instead of having to type it every time, I just click it and it auto-populates, and then I can run my request, whatever the request may be. So that is the process for creating an agent. Now, once you've done this, if you've noticed here as I've gone through this demonstration that there is no save button. As you make changes to your agent, it automatically saves for you. So you'll see that the draft has been auto-saved. So at this point, I can go ahead and create the agent, and it'll go through the process and it'll create the agent. Once this process is completed, that new agent will show up in my agent section, either directly here, or it'll be in the all agents area, which is right here. So it's going through the process of creating an agent. Okay, so now our agent has been successfully created, and I can go directly to the agent. Notice there's a share link. I can share this agent with people if I want to, within my organization or within my team if I want to. But notice here, my space agent is on the left here, and I'm currently running it so I can ask it questions. And notice I've got 6 total pre-built questions. These are our starter prompts. So I can just go in there and select one of these if I want to. So again, going back to what I said earlier, if you're dealing with data that you use all the time, a spreadsheet or some other document, and there's certain types of queries that you run constantly, just create a starter prompt for the query, and then just click the box, and then you can launch it and go from there. So that's the benefit of doing that. Now, if you're using this agent for other people also, if you're sharing it out, then the starter prompts could be examples of the types of queries that you can run. So there's my space agent. Notice here, what are the latest discoveries in space exploration? It gives it to me in English, Spanish, and of course our favorite here, which is Klingon, as part of this process here. So let me give you another example of an agent that I've built. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my all agents here, and I'm going to show all the agents that I currently have. And one of the agents that I created was called a certification guide. And this may be useful for those that are out there looking to prepare for one of your Microsoft certification exams, even anything related to AI or anything else that we're doing. So this agent here, and I'm going to show you how I've configured this here. So I'm going to go to that agent. Here we go. So this agent assists users in finding information about various certifications. Notice my instructions. Interact with the users in a friendly manner. When you provide a response, initially provide a short response. So the initial response will be short, but then follow up and ask the user, would they want more detailed information? If the user says yes or responds affirmatively, then provide a more detailed explanation. Do not answer questions related to sports and sporting events of any nature. And I just put that in there for training purposes for one of the courses that I taught, one of my classes. But this agent is designed to answer questions related to certifications. Now, where does this agent go to look for the answers? That would be my knowledge section here. So it's going to look in the Microsoft Learn site. So anything that I have here, as well as I've got a document attached here. So it's going to look in the Microsoft Learn site, as well as this Word document that I have sitting in SharePoint for its answers. And then for demo purposes, I actually pulled in my ticketing system here, so it can actually answer questions related to help desk tickets if you have that. So it can do coding, it can generate images, and we've got some starter prompts. So now let's go ahead and launch this agent here. And let's ask it a question. What are the most popular advanced Microsoft certifications? If I could spell Microsoft. There you go. So here's some of the most popular advanced Microsoft certifications, which include the Solutions Architect, Cybersecurity Architect, basically all of our architect level certifications, and then a hybrid server one. Notice here, would you like a breakdown of what each certification covers or guidance? Why did it ask that? Because in my agent, I said, initially provide a short response, but then follow up and ask, would you like more detailed information? So I'm just going to say yes, provide more details. And now it's going to give me a more involved response based on that. So this is an example of an agent that I created specifically for answering questions dealing with certification. Let me give you an example of one more agent that I've created for demo purposes, which may be great. And it's called Real Estate Practice. And I had a student in one of my classes who's preparing for their Florida real estate license exam. They wanted to start preparing for it. It's one of their hobbies. And they wanted to go in and, use an agent to help them study. So let's go in here. Let me show you this agent. So we're going to go to Real Estate Practice. So I demonstrated this in class for this individual. And I said, okay, we're going to call it Real Estate Practice. The description is for Florida Real Estate Practice. But notice the instructions here. Create a 20-question multiple choice quiz to help prepare for the Florida Real Estate License exam. Each question should have 4 answer choices. Do not indicate which answer is correct up front. So that it's a multiple choice question. The behavior of the quiz. If a user selects the correct answer, proceed to the next question. If the user selects an incorrect answer, allow them to try again. After each answer, correct or incorrect, provide a brief explanation of why the answer is correct before moving on to the next question. And then the formatting of the practice exam. Present one question at a time, use clear formatting for the question and answer choices, and include a short explanation for each question that's answered. Now, for the knowledge sources here, notice there's nothing defined. That means it's going to use the internet, essentially, to provide that information. And then, starter prompts. So there's one starter prompt which says, create questions related to, and then it'll be a fill in the blank. So let's take a look at that actual agent at work here. So we're going to go to our real estate practice, and notice I only have one starter prompt. So let's go ahead and select that. Create questions related to, let's say, license law. Now remember, all the instructions that I defined behind the scenes are going to be incorporated as part of this. So notice here it generated a question type test for me. Question 1, which the following is a requirement to obtain your Florida Real Estate Sales Associate license. And then you pick A, B, C, or D. So the answer for this one, if it could be one of these. It's not A's, so I'm going to pick A as an example here. Let's go ahead and submit this. And notice here, not quite, but good try. So it gave me an explanation of why that wasn't correct as part of this. And then it goes on to the next question and so forth. So you can use agents for many different things, for data mining, for data analysis, for, as you see here, for preparation for exams and certifications that you may have. You can use agents within your organization for use by different departments, like the HR department can create an agent with the entire HR, employee handbook so that anyone can ask questions if needed. So hopefully this gives you a better understanding of how to create your own custom agents. Let's take a look at how agent creation works specifically within SharePoint. Unlike Copilot Chat, where you use Copilot Studio, SharePoint has its own built-in agent creation tool. It's designed for business users, and while it shares the same goal, helping you build intelligent assistants, it operates a little bit differently. When you open up the SharePoint agent tool, you'll see it's organized into 3 tabs: Overview, Sources, and Behavior. Each tab plays a role in shaping how your agent functions. In the Overview tab, you'll enter the agent's name and description. This helps users understand what the agent does and sets the tone for its interactions. The Sources tab is where you define the agent's knowledge base. You can point it to a specific SharePoint site, folders, or files. This is important because the agent will only respond based on the content you give it to access. So if you wanted to answer questions about a project site or document library, you'll need to include those sources in there. Then there's the Behavior tab. This is where you define how the agent interacts with users. You can set a welcome message, add up to 3 starter prompts, and write out the instructions that guide the agent's responses. Unlike Copilot Studio, this tool doesn't carry on a conversation to help you refine those instructions. What you enter is what the agent uses. So it's important to be clear and thorough. One key difference to highlight is that SharePoint agents don't support advanced features like code interpreter and image generation. Those are exclusive to Copilot Chat agents built in Copilot Studio. Also, you can't configure SharePoint agents using templates. Everything is built manually, which gives you control, but also means you need to be intentional with your setup. Another important note, when you're writing instructions, the tool won't suggest improvements or ask follow-up questions. So if you want your agent to perform a specific task or respond in a certain tone, you need to spell it out clearly. Think of it like writing a job description. The more specific you are, the better the agent will respond and perform. This tool is designed to be simple and accessible, but it still requires thoughtful input. The more clearly you define your agent's purpose, sources, and behavior, the more useful it would be to your team. So in this quick demonstration, we'll walk through how to create a SharePoint agent that's tailored to a specific site. You'll see how easy it is to set up an agent that can answer questions, guide users, or perform helpful actions, all based on the site's content. It's a fast, practical way to bring intelligent support directly into your team's workspace. Okay, so now for our final demonstration. In the prior demonstration, we looked at how to build a custom agent in Copilot Chat. And the good news is a lot of the fields and the concepts of that easily translate when we build a SharePoint agent. So in SharePoint, you've got to go to a site that has Copilot enabled. So this site here has Copilot enabled. I'll select the Copilot icon here at the top. And as we mentioned in our video, there's a default agent that's created for every site. So this right here is the default agent for the site that we're currently at, which you see here. Now, what I want to do is I want to create my own custom agent. So in the dropdown, I'm going to select the option here to create an agent. Now, keep in mind, we talked about in the video, the permissions that are required to be able to do this. So if you don't see this option, it basically means you don't have the permissions. So we're going to select the option to create an agent. Now, in here, we've got 3 tabs: Overview, Sources, and Behavior. In our Overview tab, number 1, we give our agent a name. So if you notice here, for this agent, it's called Better Than Best. We define an icon for this agent. We then define, what the agent is going to do. So, provide a brief description of the objective of the agent itself. It's going to pull data from here. It's not, these, again, the ground rules. What do you want it to do and not to do as part of this here? In our Sources tab, This is where we define our grounding information. Where do we want the agent to go to find the data? So what SharePoint sites? So in this case here, we're pulling it from the main SharePoint site. Remember, if you have a hub site, it can automatically pull from subsites also. But it can also pull from a OneDrive. So you can specify OneDrive data to be incorporated as part of this process. And then finally, we have our behavior tab. In our behavior tab, the first thing you'll see is the welcome message section here. This message that you define actually shows up right back here. If you can see that behind the window, this is what anyone who has the right to use this agent, this is the message that they'll see when they select this agent. Now, below the welcome message, we have our starter prompts. The starter prompts will be the prompts that you see right behind here in the window. These are the exact same, from a concept standpoint, starter prompts that we had in Copilot Chat. Are there some pre-built queries or prompts that you want to run? Or these could be examples of things that people that are using your agent can run. It's up to you. Now, there is a difference, though. In Copilot Chat, which is what we just demonstrated earlier, you can have up to 6 starter prompts. In SharePoint, Copilot agents in SharePoint, you can only have 3 starter prompts as a maximum. So keep that in mind. And of course, our agent instructions. These are the same instructions, and the concept is exactly the same as for Copilot Chat. These are ultimately all of our rules of engagement. Remember, respond in a happy tone, respond in Spanish, English, and Klingon for those that speak in different languages. Don't talk about anything or don't respond to anything related to PII. Every response should be limited to 3 sentences. You can define the ground rules on what you want the agent to do behind the scenes for all of its responses. Now, once you've defined all of your fields, and if you notice here, there is no describe option, which we do have in Copilot Chat. So you have to manually put all of this in here. It sounds bad, but it's not. It's easy to do, but you have to manually do it. You can't automate it using the describe tab. Now, once you've got your agent built the way you want, then you're going to select the option to create. Once you select the option to create, your new agent will then show up in your list. Now, keep in mind that the agents that you'll see will be agents that are approved for everyone, and then you will also see agents that you created for yourself. Unless that agent has been approved by the administrator, no one else will see any custom agents that you've built. So keep that in mind. So this right here at the very top, our better than best one, this is the pre-built agent that came with it. But then I created one here called Bobby Demo. So this is one that I see. And then here's another one, MTT onboarding agent that we have. And essentially to select the agent, all you do is literally that. You select the agent. So let's say Bobby Demo. I select that. So now I'm in the Bobby Demo agent. And if there are any starter prompts, they're going to be listed here. And then I can just select what I want. So, in this case here, summarize any key highlights that we have. If you notice down here at the bottom, it populated it. And then I can run that information. And it'll generate a response for me. So that is the process for how to create agents, custom agents in SharePoint. Practice in your own environments, and this is a great, powerful tool to use to develop agents. Thank you very much, and happy building of your agents. Here's a quick look at how easy it is to launch AI agents with just one click. This video highlights the simplicity and speed of deploying agents in Microsoft 365. No setup, no coding, just instant productivity. Watch closely to see how fast intelligent support can be activated across your workspace.
Did you know that if you have Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can create specialist agents in just one click to help you and your team with your specified topics and tasks? For example, imagine if you are working in a different time zone to the rest of your team, so you often wake up to a bunch of their unanswered messages at the start of your day. Now, while you are asleep or away, your agent, grounded in the knowledge you give it, can answer specific questions from your team on your behalf, freeing you up. In fact, All you need to build your agent is your content in SharePoint and an idea for where an agent can help you in the course of your day. Let me show you just how easy it is to create one. My team writes product specifications for Contoso Energy's solar panel arrays. In SharePoint, all I have to do is select the folders or individual files that I want this agent to focus on. Here, I have files that have already been uploaded. You can also upload new files where SharePoint will index those files for you in a few moments. I'll select all of these product specifications. On top of the screen, you can see the Create an Agent control. I'll click that. And with just one click, the agent is ready and grounded with all my selected files. And I can try it right from here. So I'll prompt it with, compare each solar panel array with details on the home range in square feet for the 2 types of materials offered. Add the average home square footage per array size and price ranges for each. And it gives me all the details across the files that I added as grounding information. So it's generated a response by panel array type and home square footage. And I can let my agent reason over that information too. For example, if I'm new to the team and am looking for a product recommendation based on the size of a house, I'll use, my customer has a 2,900 square foot home and wants the most efficient solar panel type and the right size solar panel array. What do you recommend? And here, it recommends a specific panel array based on the home size and tells me what panel type is most efficient with more detail. So let's rewind what we saw because I want to point out a few things. First, unlike other options you may have tried, you don't have to move your files outside of Microsoft 365. You don't need to worry about version control. Your files are always up to date as you and your team continue to edit them. And your agent is always working with the latest information. And all of your data security protections, such as file labels and encryption, remain in place to help prevent data loss. Now let me walk through another example of this, and this time I'll customize the agent to show you the options. Let's say you spend a lot of time building written project plans. Each has a similar structure and tone, but details will change based on each project, related tasks, and other aspects. Wouldn't it be great to use your existing files as baseline templates and then just point to a small set of details to author new project plans? Let me show you how that would work. So I'm looking at another SharePoint site for project planning. There are 2 folders here. This one contains all the recent completed project plans like you saw before. Now I'll show you what's in the other folder. It contains project intake forms. I'll also open up one of these intake forms and you'll see that it just lists key details and differentiators for one specific project. So this time, I'm just going to select the completed installation project plans folder as the baseline knowledge for my agent. Then I just need to click Create an Agent. And if I wanted to, I could start using it right away by hitting Try It. But in this case, I want to add a few more details to make it easy for anyone on my team to start using it, so I'm going to choose Edit. Here, I can choose to rename. I'll do that. There's also an option here to brand it with a different icon image, but I'll skip that for now and give it a more detailed description here. In the Sources tab, I can see that my SharePoint folder is already selected, and I can choose to add another SharePoint site or more libraries, folders, or files. I can select here up to 20 sources. Importantly, agents do not grant access to your selected content, which means that for anyone using the agent, they will only get responses based on the files and locations that they already have access to. In my case, I'm going to keep what's on the Sources tab. Now I'll move to the Behavior tab. Here, I can add a message to help others understand how best to use this agent. And below that, I can add starter prompts. These are recommendations that you can make for anyone to quickly get value from what your agent can do. I'm going to add one here for creating a new project plan based on the defined knowledge from our folder of completed project plans. It also has an instruction to reference a specific project intake form using the paperclip or /. I can add 2 more starter prompts, but in this case, I'll remove the other 2 by deleting the text. That way, my agent is focused on this one task. Below that are the instructions for the agent. Here, it's best to be very specific about your expectations for what it should do. I'm going to paste in a command to output content very close to our completed project plans. I can test it from here, but I'll hit Save instead so I can use it full screen from our SharePoint site. So now the agent is ready and discoverable for anyone with access and permissions to this SharePoint site. Let's try it out. This agent file is my new agent, and I'll open it. And I'm going to use the starter prompt that I configured earlier. I'll use this paperclip button to attach the project intake form that I just opened with the new details and submit my prompt. And you'll see the output as it's getting generated is following the structure of the completed project document and adding the details from the project intake form that I referenced in my prompt. Now I have a completed project plan like I wanted. Again, I didn't need to move files from their original location, and everything remained within my compliance boundary in Microsoft 365. From here, I can copy the output and put it into Word or an email and make any additional edits. And something else I want to show you is how you will be able to use this agent in the context of Microsoft Teams. I'm going to use Share and Copy Link to add this to my clipboard. Now, I'll move over to Microsoft Teams in a group chat. Note that this also works in meeting chats. So I'll paste in the link and send it to the group. There it is. I'll confirm that I want to add it to this chat. And from here, I can just @mention my agent to work with it like a team member in this chat. This time, instead of asking it to generate a project plan, I'll prompt it for details about the completed project plans in the knowledge source folder. I'll prompt the agent with which project plans have been created for locations in Sunnyvale. And I can see that 4 of them are completed for that location. Now I'll prompt it, how many weeks does it take to run the full project for an A400 solar panel array? And it gives me a detailed breakdown of the project phases. Others in this chat can ask follow-up questions like you're seeing now, whether smaller homes take less time. And there's another detailed response. So we can use this information for future projects and customer inquiries. Of course, that is just one example, and you can use the same approach to help develop other types of documents and collaborate with your team. And by the way, your context documents don't need to be as structured or complete. They can even reference notes or meeting transcripts for similar outputs. Now let's dig into the .agent files that you might have noticed earlier in our SharePoint document library. You can use these files and click on them to open your agents. And the files themselves contain everything that you configured in your agent. Here's the agent file I built before, and this is the schema. And you'll see the starter prompts here, the agent name, the description that was added, and the instructions. And below that are the selected grounding data sources. Additionally, these files use the same labeling and policy protections as other files stored in SharePoint and OneDrive too. So that was an overview of the approaches you can use for building agents. As you saw, all you need to bring to this experience is your content and an idea for where your agent can help you in the course of your day. Beyond building your own agents, each SharePoint site will include a built-in agent focused on the content on the site, so you can get started right away. For more ideas and details for building your own agents, check out aka.ms/SharePoint Agents Adoption to see what's possible. And be sure to subscribe to Microsoft Mechanics. And thanks for watching.
Now that we've built our agents, it's time to talk about something just as important, testing and editing. Because even the best designed agent needs to be validated before it's ready for real-world use. We got to test it. When you test your agent, you're not just checking to see if it works, you're making sure it works the way you intend it. That means experimenting with tone and style. Try giving it a professional voice, then switch to something more casual. See which one resonates better with your audience. You'll also want to test for clarity and even accuracy. Ask it to walk you through the process, like creating a document library in SharePoint, and make sure the steps are correct and easy to follow. Consistency is another big one. Ask similar questions in different ways to see if the agent gives consistent answers. If it doesn't, that's a sign you may need to refine the instructions. And don't forget adaptability. Change the instructions slightly to see how well the agent adjusts. Can it handle edge cases? Can it respond to more complex or unusual requests? User feedback is key here. Let others interact with the agent and tell you what works and what doesn't. Their experience will help you fine-tune the instructions and improve the overall performance. Now, let's talk about testing the knowledge sources. You want to make sure that the agent's pulling from the right places. Ask questions that should be answered using the knowledge base and verify the responses. Update the sources regularly and test again to ensure the agent reflects the latest information. If you're using a SharePoint hub site, check that the agent pulls from both the hub and its associated sites. Editing is straightforward. You use the same tools you use to create the agent, whether it's Copilot Studio or SharePoint Agent Builder. But here's something to keep in mind. If you edit a shared agent, users won't see the changes until you reshare it. And if the agent includes SharePoint files and folders, resharing ensures those resources are properly reconnected for a consistent experience. Also, you can't edit a SharePoint site's ready-made agent. These are fixed. But for custom agents, you can fully control them. In Copilot Chat, if you edit an agent that's been shared in Teams, the original version stops working in Teams until it's reshared. So always make sure your collaborators have access to the updated version and its sources. Testing and editing aren't just final steps, they're part of a life cycle. They help you improve your agent over time, adapt to changing needs, and ensure it continues to deliver value. Now, let's talk about uninstalling and deleting agents, especially in Copilot Chat. Uninstalling an agent doesn't mean it's gone forever. It simply removes it from your personal gallery, but keeps all of its settings intact. This is super helpful if you want to temporarily remove an agent, maybe for troubleshooting or just to declutter your workspace. You can reinstall it later without having to rebuild it from scratch. Deleting, on the other hand, is permanent. Once you delete an agent, it's gone, along with all of its configurations, instructions, prompts, and the history. So make sure that that's really what you want to do before you hit that delete button. In SharePoint, things work a little bit differently. There's no uninstall option, and you can't delete the ready-made agent that comes with your site. It's baked into the experience. However, you can delete your own custom agents and even clear out your chat history if needed. Whether it's a single conversation or all chats, you have control over what stays and what goes. One important tip you want to keep in mind: when you edit an agent that's been shared with others, those users won't see the updates until you reshare it. This is especially true if your agents pull from SharePoint files or folders. Microsoft recommends resharing your agent with the same group of users to ensure they get access to the updated content and functionality. And here's a little bonus insight. If you've shared an agent in Teams and then edit it in Copilot Studio, the original version in Teams stopped working. So if you make changes, be sure to reshare the updated agent to keep everything running smoothly. Managing agents isn't just about keeping things organized, it's about making sure your team has the right tools at the right time with the right access. Whether you're setting defaults, uninstalling, deleting, or resharing, each step plays a role in maintaining a productive and secure environment. In session 3, we learned about building and managing an agent. We discussed the tools used to create agents in Copilot Chat and SharePoint. We talked about the components of an agent. We walked through how to create an agent in Copilot Chat and SharePoint. We talked about testing and editing agents. And finally, we discussed managing agents. This concludes our session. We hope you'll join us as we journey through this course. We encourage you to watch other videos in this course or search out your next favorite topic on Microsoft Learn at aka.ms/learn.